over at BangTheBook.com. We are your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information. Lots of great stuff over there. Of course, the daily articles from Kyle Hunter and Parker Michaels. You want to make sure you're checking those out. Daily NBA and college basketball picks, previews, predictions, all sorts of good stuff for that. Got a golf preview up for the Farmers Insurance Open. Working on my MLB stuff. Should start to roll some of that out here in the month of February. So lots of great stuff going on over at BangTheBook.com. Make sure you check out our Bang the Book YouTube page as well. Doing some daily videos over there. And Brian Blessing will have some videos here for us this week as well. And, of course, as you know, this and every edition of Bang the Book Radio presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. Sign up at DSI using that promo code BTB and the number 200. 100% deposit match bonus for the Sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino. Both of those up to $500. And at BetDSI, it's only a game until you bet it. We'll start things off with our first guest today. That is Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. Brian, how's it going today, man?
Oh, I got news for you, Adam. I'm sitting on the patio, two sweatshirts, a hooded sweatshirt, a vest, 4 degrees, wind chill's got to be in the high 30s. I'm shivering here. How you doing?
Oh, I'm great. You know, the wind chill negative degrees here and, a bunch of snow on the ground. Then it's going to rain. Then it's going to freeze over. It's great. I love winter. I wish it would do this year round. All right. In any event, as you're freezing out there, I appreciate you, I know it's tough conditions, but I appreciate you getting through the segment here today with us.
I'll muddle through.
All right, so Super Bowl 53, it feels like it's forever away. It's, about 11 days away now at this point. Rams, Patriots, anywhere from a 1.5 to a 3-point favorite in the offshore market. Seems like a lot of the brick-and-mortar market out there in very cold Las Vegas sitting 2.5.
Yeah, it's funny. Sunday we were watching the game and started kicking the tires on, what's the number going to be? And as the day was going on, an advanced number was put out where basically it was the Saints would have been 2 and the Rams would have been 1.5. That was leading into the games. And then, of course, it's always the last thing you see. And you're watching the game and you're like, if the Patriots walk into Arrowhead and win this game, that mindset's got to change. So as the afternoon was going on, and then it became a really good game at the end, I'm sitting there thinking, New England's going to be a slight favorite. That's probably what will happen here. Well, some places actually opened up the game pick. It went to 1.5 in the blink of an eye, and now it's up to 2.5. So, a large part of it is what you last saw. But, give the Patriots full marks. Both teams, right, went on the road and got the W. But it's Brady versus Goff, and I think that's part of it, that, the veteran against the young quarterback. And we'll have 2 weeks to talk about this, Adam. We'll be blue in the face and we'll play this thing already. But in the very early stages, as you start to formulate an opinion, you start thinking about the coaches. And, McVay's the shiny new toy, and he's aggressive. But now you got to start figuring out, really, your handicap of this game specifically is Bill Belichick, and what's he going to take away? And we talked about this last week. The odds are, and it's exactly what happened, that he was not going to let Tyreek Hill beat him. Hill got one big catch. So let's start looking ahead. What is it Belichick will try to specifically take away from the Rams? And it stands to reason. He's going to say, I'm going to make Jared Goff beat me. Gurley, maybe he's not 100%, but Anderson is running the ball well. He is not going to let the Rams, at least he's going to try not to let the Rams establish the running game. And from a props perspective, that could open Pandora's box for a lot of guys.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we will be blue in the face talking about this for 2 weeks, and that's why I'm just getting, some initial thoughts, some initial opinions here, and I think you did a fantastic job of that because, you've got 2 weeks to put your handicap together for this thing. I mean, I don't think that market entry for the Super Bowl with this line where it is all that important. I mean, New England could go to 3, and I think there are rumblings, I should say, that they could go to 3, but they'll come off of 3 by the time the game kicks off either way. So, I don't think you have to do too much diving into the market, but, I think something you said really stands out. It's the last thing you saw. we mentioned this on yesterday's show. If you look at the box score, New England dominated Kansas City. Time of possession, doubled them up in first downs, outgained them badly. What are we hearing about the Rams? We're hearing that the Rams don't deserve to be there because of the missed pass interference call. So I'll be curious to see how everything sets up going into next week.
Well, I mean, listen, there's 1,000 plays, in these football games. You want to sit there and say the Patriots don't deserve to be there. It's ridiculous. But the Patriots don't deserve to be there. D Ford lines up offside. Really, on the play that's intercepted, and the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. Of all the plays, the Chiefs have 3 guys that lined up offside all year long, and that one cost them the Super Bowl. The call thing is obvious. That really did decide the game. It really did. But the officiating, that's a whole podcast, but maybe it might be 10 podcasts during the summer.
Yeah, I agree. It's bad, and it's a shame that 2 very big calls really decided the Super Bowl. And I mean, look, the Kansas City one was obviously a penalty. I mean, there's no denying that, but I guess they both were, to be honest with you. But apparently, the one in the Saints game was, determined not to be. So, like you said, I mean, I think you look at the coaches, you look at the quarterbacks, you look at how this game's going to go from an X's and O's standpoint. I don't know. I mean, I think that, again, as with just about every Super Bowl, the prop betting market is the way to go. But, I think that we're going to have to see if sharp guys are willing to back the Rams, because right now it does look like the Patriots will be a very public side here.
Yeah, I would think, a very broad brush blanket look at it. 2 weeks out, I think there could be nerves in the beginning, and I think the game will pick up steam as it goes on. You get the inordinately long halftime where coaches get to work and dial things up. I'd be inclined to say it's a higher scoring game. Right out of the gate, maybe under in the first half, see what's happening. You come back at it in the second half, under for the game, and I'd probably take the point. As legacy-wise, as great as the Patriots are, they don't roll anybody in the Super Bowl. They're there all the time, but that doesn't mean they're going to win.
Well, the most important question I have to ask you about this game before we move on from it, have you studied Gladys Knight for her national anthem prop yet?
Oh, boy. No. There'll be all kinds of nonsense. Here, I'll throw one. I mean, it's a story I've told on Sportsbook Radio before. And sure enough, and I said it Sunday with friends who were watching the game. It was about 7 years ago. And we were watching the game. A buddy of mine, he's a surgeon. He's a really sharp guy. I call him Dr. Nick. That's the name. So we're sitting there, and I think it was with Seattle was in the championship game. Maybe it was the year they played Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl. And right out of the gate, there was a holding penalty in the early stages of the game. And he looks at me and says, I'll make you a bet. He says, 1.5. He goes, over under 1.5 holding calls the rest of the day. I said, the rest of the game? He goes, no, the rest of the day. And it was both championship games. Well, he took my money. They do not call holding once you hit championship weekend and then even into the Super Bowl. They let them play. Yeah, they let them play on the interference call, which is ridiculous. But across the board, did you see the one play? The whole world saw it. It was a blitz, and Gurley was in the block, and he threw 2 arms around the guy's shoulder. He's standing right next to the quarterback. Threw him to the ground. They didn't call holding. Well, okay, so that's the story. They don't call holding. But then I was talking to my friend Nick yesterday, and he brought up a great point. If you think about it, the Patriots are always in the playoffs. They know this. And all these new teams that come in year in and new teams cycle in and out, they're just playing football, right? But the Patriots are tackling people and holding people because they've been there and they know they don't call it. You watch the rest of your life. Watch the championship weekend in the Super Bowl. They do not call holding on the offensive line.
Interesting. I've never picked up on that. So, hey, maybe that'll be something from a prop standpoint of under penalties or, under New England penalties, something like that. So keep that in mind. Again, a lot of different ways to skin this Super Bowl cat here, as it were. All right, let's chat horse racing. Let's do something completely different, something that kind of shakes up the mold a little bit here. I mean, it is the dog days of winter, and, I know you're bundled up. So let's talk some horse racing here because we've got the road to the Kentucky Derby. A lot of the big, lead-up events are still coming. Those basically start mid-February, early March, but still odds out here for the Kentucky Derby, so we'll touch on those in a couple of minutes. But first, Brian, for anybody looking to, keep themselves busy here when they're cooped up inside, or, anybody that wants to get out, do something different, head to the off-track betting area and watch some simulcast, give us some general horse racing betting tips.
Oh my goodness! You can go for a walk if you want. There are 1,000 of them.
It's too damn cold.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different era now. We've got back-to-back Triple Crown winners. You got Justified, American Pharaoh. It's the hardest thing to win, and then it goes in streaks. I think for the Derby specifically, you want to focus on trainers, big-name trainers. And, listen, the cream of the crop, I mean, the best horses go to the guys that know how to do it. Then there'll always be guys that are going to crash the party. And who's the next new guy? I think Chad Brown's trainer, he's going to win a Derby. So you focus on trainers specifically for the Kentucky Derby. And then the road they take is significantly different in the last 10, 15 years than it's ever been. And again, like I said, you get Justified bucking the trend, breaking Apollo's record that stood forever, that an unraced 2-year-old could win the Derby. But the Derby winner could be racing at Tampa Bay, could be racing at Oaklawn in Arkansas. So the road to the Derby is different, and the format is different. And I think the format is better. The money earned that gets horses into the starting gate, what it used to be. So that every year it was a 2-year-old race called the Delta Jackpot. And the winner of the Delta Jackpot in the summer, the year before the Derby, basically it was a $1 million race, automatically went to the Kentucky Derby. Well, by the time the Derby got around, the horse could have been nothing more than a plow horse. Now it rewards current form more, and the points to get into the race escalate with the preps leading into the Kentucky Derby. So current form is a much bigger thing. But the thing with horse racing, I'll just very generically, every race, I mean, this could be a 5,000 claimer today at Mahoning Valley or at Parks in Philadelphia. We're talking about Belichick, right? I mean, we're talking about the coach. You're always trying to read between the lines. What is the trainer thinking? Is that the trainer's the coach? And if you look for changes, if a horse runs on Lasix for the first time, if a horse, 3 races in a row isn't getting involved in the race early, and it looks like the horse is nothing special. All of a sudden they put blinkers on, which promotes speed, and all of a sudden the horse gets involved in a race earlier, gets brave, and wins race. All of a sudden it's like a light switch that went off for the horse, especially with the 3-year-old leading into the Derby. The difference between a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old horse, these horses can lose 100 pounds during a race. So physically they're maturing, but mentally they're trying to figure out what it is they're supposed to do out there. They love to run, but you're trying to do what the jockey's telling you to do, and hopefully the trainer's got the horse in the, legged up and ready to go. But look for changes on a race-to-race basis, changes that the trainer is trying to do something to promote a good effort from the horse, and then go and look and say, hey, when is this trainer's 28% when he puts blinkers on, or if he goes from a route to a sprint. And the biggest change is the jockey, Adam. I watch this all the time. In my mindset, again, I told you, kill the hour for you. But, the biggest thing is sometimes it's so obvious, and it's right in front of your face. And the horse player's mentality, I learned this finally after a lot of years. Horse could be 6-5, and you're sitting there looking at the race film. This horse has to fall down to lose. And 70% of the betting public, their mindset is, I can beat him. Well, that's the same guy that after that race, he tries to beat the horse, and the horse wins at 6-5, is the same guy that's going to go and bet a team -3 in a football game that's a coin flip. And he's going to bet $110 to win 100 on something that's a coin flip, but he's got the mindset, I'll beat the 6-5, a plus money horse. So you take what they give you sometimes. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and that's something that that I used at some of the tracks around here last summer when you and I talked about the Kentucky Derby, and went through some of the prep stuff for that about looking for equity, looking for value, even if it's one of those horses that does look like a pretty big favorite, a 6-5, a 5-2, something like that. A lot of people shy away from those, thinking, well, the payout's not good enough, but hey, there's good value in those types of things. So, speaking of value, as we take a look at the Kentucky Derby board, I'm pulling these odds from BetOnline. I'm not sure what you have out there in Vegas here so far, Brian, but Game Winner is your favorite right now at 6-1, Improbable 8-1, Instagram 16-1, Knicks Go 20-1, Signalman 20-1. The rest of the contenders on down from there. Now, obviously, you'll have some 30-1 and some 50-1 shots, on Derby Saturday there at Churchill, but right now, the favorite for the race, 6-1, you got to think Game Winner, at least at this point, with a win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and the American Pharoah Stakes at Santa Anita, you got to think he probably goes off less than 6-1 on Derby Day, right?
It makes sense, but not necessarily. I mean, it depends how, these are all races when he was a 2-year-old. What's he going to do when he gets to the Santa Anita Derby? Or, what's his current form going to be? Listen, these horses are 1,200-pound animals running on thin legs. The hardest part is to get the horse to the race. I don't know. Personally, I just say, like you said, he's 6 or 7-1 now. Could be 7-2. The favorite's going to be 7-2 on race day. The Derby, I didn't know it was going to be 8-5. The pool's so big. So, from that perspective, it'd be like betting a golf tournament, Adam. I'd be looking for a 40, 50, 60, 100-1 horse now, and then you got opportunities when you get closer. The thing I would say to people is, watch some of these key maiden races, or some of these horses, and maybe what you do is, like, let's say the Risen Star or the Louisiana Derby's coming up, or the prep races, the Sam F. Davis at Tampa Bay. Look at the field. In the horses that are entered in the race, when those races come up, and if you get a horse that's 15-20-1 in one of the Derby preps, well, it stands to reason that 15-1 horse is going to be 60 or 80-1 to win the Kentucky Derby. The one thing you at least know is that the Derby is on the trainer's radar. He's running in the races to try to get into the Derby, so you're ahead of the curve a little bit. Now, if you find a long shot in one of these preps, and you're getting ready to play the prep race, and you got the long shot, you better put a bet in on the horse to win the Derby, because if the horse is going to get points to get into the Derby by winning that race, you're nuts not to bet the 15-1 that day and bet 60, 80-1 on the Derby, because if he wins that race, he's got to become 15-1 to win the Kentucky Derby. So you always have to have your eye on the big prize.
Now, obviously, people will have to file some of these things away because a lot of the championship series events, start. There's one, a lot of them start in March. So, Brian, as you're looking through these races here, obviously there are different grades. The Kentucky Derby, a grade 1 race. The only grade 1 race is for the road to the Kentucky Derby, the Florida Derby at Gulfstream, Santa Anita Derby, obviously at Santa Anita, and the Arkansas Derby at Oaklawn. So, what does the grading mean to you here when it comes to these races? I mean, if a horse wins a grade 3 race, does it even show up on your radar relative to the grade 1 Kentucky Derby?
Well, conceivably, yes. And what I would say to you is that know this, that all the races that are leading into the Kentucky Derby, even the favorite, even Game Winner, when Game Winner gets to the Kentucky Derby, there's going to be a huge question mark. Can he get the distance? The Derby's 1.25 miles. None of the Derby preps are 1.25 miles. They're all shorter races. So when they get there, they're going to be asked to do something for the very first time. And then a lot of these races are one-turn miles. Horses. So the last prep maybe for a horse to go to the Kentucky Derby is going to be the first time the horse ever tried something, and that's going around 2 turns and going around a ground. And all of a sudden, it could be this wake-up shot for the horse. that could relax during the race and then fire a big shot at the end of the race. That's why these horses blossom and bloom onto the scene, because they're physically and mentally maturing, and then they're all trying things that they've never done before. Some will wilt and fade away. All of a sudden, some will blossom and bloom onto the scene. So, again, you kind of have to have the crystal ball out. And honestly, I mean, a lot of these preps, this horse won the race. Did you see that horse? He won the race, blah, 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 blah. Well, the horse that's the main danger in the Kentucky Derby, you go back, you watch the replay of the race, is the horse that finished third in the race. He got walloped going into the first turn. He got a bad trip. But then you watch the gallop out after the race is over, which you think doesn't mean anything. But on the gallop out, the horse that finished third went by the winner like he was tied to a post and just kept on running. Well, wait a minute. That's the horse that's the danger horse in the Derby, because the Derby's a longer race. It's like betting a prop at a football game. And when you're watching a horse race, there's a race within the race.
All right, so I guess the final question here, are there any of those long shots that are on your radar right now that you're going to be following in the rest of these prep races?
I'll be brutally honest with you. I have not, from a Derby prep perspective, I have not landed on really any of these horses. A few years back, I actually got 3 to the gate for the Derby, which is exciting. And I'm pretty good at finding horses that are going to run big and maybe be something. In fact, I called a buddy. I spotted a horse Saturday, and I'm drooling. I go, hey, here's one. Maybe I found one. It was a maiden. I thought it was a key race. It was at Fairgrounds. And I'm like, okay, this is one makes sense. It was trainer Dallas Stewart, who's run second in the Derby a couple of times. And then I was heartbroken. I look at the horse's name, and then I go, wait a minute. And it was a filly. I think, it was a filly. But I found a maiden winner that I think is going to be a really good horse, and I would put her on my radar. Her name's Mo Gale. And I think she's got maybe a shot to go on the trail, but it would be to win the Kentucky Oaks. And good luck to you finding out futures for the Kentucky Oaks. But no, I'm always watching. I'm telling you right now, the Derby winner may not have run yet, and it's only happened once in forever. But I think it's a different era we're living in, and you're going to watch some of these key races coming up, maiden races at Santa Anita, Gulfstream, potentially in New York, where these horses are going to make their debut. And if you say that was a key maiden race, that one will absolutely put yourself between the ears of the trainer. He's going to take a shot here, and he's going to go to the next step and give the horse a chance.
Well, we'll revisit the Kentucky Derby as we get closer to the race, but good to talk something a little bit different here on the show. I certainly enjoy doing that. Kind of breaks up some of the monotony here of this time of the year. So one more item of business to chat about in this segment here, Brian. That's the Farmers Insurance Open out at Torrey Pines. Tiger Woods makes his return to the PGA Tour here this week. He's in the 18 to 20 to 1 range. Got to think he's got quite a bit of rust to shake off. This is another one of those events where the guys play on different courses for the first 2 days. They'll play the North and South course, everything else on the South course. What about Torrey Pines? I mean, this South course is a beast of a track.
Oh, it is. And, Tiger will be certainly intriguing. Just watch the segue here, bud. It's almost like I do this for a living. He's a horse for the course. Won 7 times. Yeah, sorry. He's won 7 times at Torrey Pines. I think, for Tiger, it comes down to one club right out of the gate. That's the driver. If he's playing from the short grass, he's a danger at Torrey Pines. But I'm with you. There's a rust factor. But it'll be good to see him out there. I would look at guys that have been playing a little bit here. I like Leishman, but the price stinks. Even before Leishman became, whatever he is now, he's got to be in the top 20. He would always show up at Torrey Pines, and he'd be in contention, and he'd never kick the door down. Leishman, I think, contends at 18 to 1. A couple of guys, I'm not going to get off them just yet. If I do, I'm going to hate myself because I had Kuchar at the Kapalua and didn't bet him the next week, and he won. So I've been playing Sung J M, the kid. He's at 60 to 1. He's going to win one. All right, let's just put it this way, Adam. Sung J M is going to win a tournament this year. And when Sung J M wins the tournament, he's not 60-1 anymore. He's always going to be 20, 25-1. So I got the Sung J M camp. Cameron Champ, the other newcomer, he's been rested a little bit. The kid hits it a mile. And length is a big deal at Torrey Pines. I think Cameron Champ gets a little bit of rest under his belt. Could fire a shot at 40-1. Another guy that the price is just going to go away once he wins. Well, he's already won, but if he wins again, if he's 40-1, I'd say Cameron Champ. And I think somebody can come out of the gate here. Your boy, Pat Perez, is 100-1, and he's in California. And we know his penchant for playing well in California. I'll definitely be playing Pat Perez at Pebble Beach, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Pat Perez, a guy I mentioned in my preview, and that's a big thing here. You know, these California events, and there are 4 of them. We got Pebble Beach, and we also have the Genesis Open coming up. You know, these California events, I mean, there are a lot of guys that just play really, really well here. You know, Brandt Snedeker's a guy at 50-1 that plays extremely well in California. Plays very well at this event, actually. You know, but I know I'm not getting as much. Yeah. I know I'm not getting as much value on his price because he hasn't been in great form, but that depressed value because he's so good here, I think it's still worth taking. But that's one of the things that's tough about these golf events is that the odds makers are fully aware of who plays well where, and we get some of those depressed values.
Well, I mean, I'm heartbroken. I mean, I remember it like it was. Fortunately, like you get an Ian Poulter win in Houston, and you forget the pain. But here I'm still whining about Kuchar winning the second week when I had him in the first week. Last year I had Alex Noren. He was my pick before the event at Torrey Pines, and he lost on, the 6th playoff hole to Jason Day, and he was 80-1 last year. Now he's 40-1. So the guy that plays the course pretty well. The guy's coming in good form. Gary Woodland's in good form. But, again, I'd be looking at here, I'll throw one at you. He hops on the scene. It's almost like every blue moon, but when he does, he's a great rabbit. A guy like J.B. Holmes, 60-1. He plays a power fade, hits it a mile, and I think, and I'm going from memory, that he's actually played well here. So I think J.B. Holmes actually would be on my list among the guys that are in that 60-1 range. I mean, there's even went further down. You can find like a Hudson Swafford is 100-1. Martin Laird just didn't play too bad a few weeks back. You're getting balloon numbers that are out there. Again, Mike, unless you're all in on a guy at 10, 12-1, you got to be searching for a price out of the gate, and then you can reload. Rahm, the kid's he won here. He's 10-1. Well, he's flying home from Dubai. I'm not sure he's going to be awake when the tournament tees off.
Yeah, you mentioned J.B. Holmes. 3 straight top 6 finishes here at this event for J.B. Holmes, and he's 60-1 because
thank you.
Because his recent form, his recent form's not great, but he's a horse for course kind of guy, and that's something too. I mean, this is obviously a discussion for another day, but we can touch on it real quickly here. Golf is a mental game. Anybody that plays it knows that the mental side of this game is so hard. If you're not playing well, but you're going to a course where you do really, really well, you got to think there's some level of confidence there for somebody like a J.B. Holmes.
Honestly, I swear, I'm glad. Thank you. You did the homework. I mean, I just saw J.B. Holmes' name. I'm like, oh, he plays well here. It's just one of those things. Having watched, I knew he played well. Actually, you're making the case even better for me. I didn't know. What'd you say? 3 top 5s?
3 top 6s in the last 3 years. 4th, 6th, and tie for second.
Okay. So is 60-1
That's not bad, right?
Warranted? No, I mean, honestly, on having heard those numbers, there's an overlaid number. I mean, I would, wouldn't he be a guy you'd put in the, wouldn't you put J.B. Holmes ahead of Charles Howell? Charles Howell's 25-1. J.B. Holmes is 60-1. Charles Howell played well at the Sony Open. Charles Howell always plays well at the Sony Open.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely an interesting tournament, and this is one of those too. And now we're going to start to see some of these, which is kind of nice. You've got some guys that are at bigger prices. Sung J M, if this field wasn't as strong as it is, he's probably 40 or 45-1. But you've got Rahm, Rose, Rory, Day, who's won this thing twice, Tiger, Tony Finau. We haven't seen him in a little while. Xander Schauffele, who's actually from La Jolla, California. He's in the 20-1 range. Ricky Fowler, we haven't seen him in a while. He's 25-1. So all that does is bump everybody else down, about $5 in price.
Well, and I will tell you, I'm going to be just as focused this week on the Dubai Desert Classic, and I'm not gonna go and do something stupid like I've done in the past. Last week I had, although I'm nauseous about the price, I had Carabello last week, and he played well. He had a bad middle round. He's 18-1, and the other guy I had was Matt Wallace, who had 3 wins last year. He come out in the first round, and he had a putt on number 14 to take the lead in the first round. He had one bad hole. Adam, he got knocked off the train tracks. He took a double on a par 5. It was a birdie hole, and he vaporized. And it was like a punch to the gut. He disappeared for a day and a half, and then he came back. But Matt Wallace at 30-1, this guy won as much as anybody. Tommy Fleetwood, obviously a world-class golfer. People know Tommy Fleetwood. Nobody knows Matt Wallace. But Matt Wallace was winning every bit as much as Tommy Fleetwood was last year. And, oh, by the way, I remember last week we said, watch out for Ian Poulter. Because he had played a couple of weeks and he went there. He was on the first page of the leaderboard the entire weekend. It was just one of those deals where Shane Lowry ran away and hid. And, oh, by the way, the guy that finished second by a shot, was it Richard Stern? He's 80-1. He lost by a shot last week. He's 80-1.
Well, there you go. Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. Brian, how can people check out those 2 shows?
Oh, bud, it's going to be fun. We'll be doing all kinds of cool stuff the next 2 weeks. Sportsbook Radio, noon to 2 at 1 o'clock Pacific time. We do Vegas Hockey Hotline. So lots of Super Bowl talk the next 2 weeks. It's at kshp.com. The shows are archived at sportsbookradio.com, and then we'll be out doing remotes. I'll be the next 2 Fridays out at Sunset Station. Next week, I'll be doing Wednesday and Thursday over at the Superbook with Jay Cornegay, Oscar Goodman. It's an annual thing. Oscar shows up with the showgirls and does the radio show and makes his Super Bowl bet. So there's always a lot of buzz in Vegas. It's always a hectic 2 weeks, and I will tell you, my friend, I already get to the point where after 2 weeks, it's like, please play the football games. But, man, do I mean it this time. It's 7 days a week from August, and I'm not whining because I love what I do. But when that football game is played, I get weekends off for about 3 months. So bring it on. I'm ready.
Make sure you check out Brian's videos, which will be posted over on our YouTube page here probably today, and then also maybe some extra ones here later on in the week as well. And you can follow Brian on Twitter at Brian Blessing. Brian, appreciate the time as always, man. Thank you so much, sir. Get inside, warm up. We'll talk to you again next week.
It's up to 47 degrees now.
Oh, God. Brian Blessing, Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline at Brian Blessing on Twitter. I don't even know what to say to that. I'd kill for 47 right about now.